Okay, so today we are going to create a model for Tony Smith's Fermi sculpture. So let's see. This is the basic geometry. So we have an array of 8 blocks, and each block has 6 circular faces and basically curves connecting them. And it's interesting because each block is the exact same geometry as the negative space in between the blocks. So that said, if this circular face also fits into this circle formed by the connecting arcs, then we know the connecting arcs are the same radius as the circles. We also have a drawing here showing that the total sculpture is 56 feet high. So each block is 28 feet high, and then we should see that the height of each that gives us the radius, right? Since the height of each block consists of one radius, a diameter, and then another radius, that adds up to 2 diameters. So if it's 28 feet high divided by 2, that's 14-foot radius. Right? No, I'm sorry, 14-foot diameter of this circle. So that's really the only dimension we need. We just did this whole thing with one dimension. So that said, I will post some links about this artisan sculpture in the comments below. So this would be maybe impossible to do with traditional extrusions and cuts. So we're going to use a 3D sketch, and we're going to create surfaces. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up a new part. I'm going to open a 3D sketch, and I'm going to sketch a midpoint line starting at the origin, and I'm going to draw it along this axis. So I see the little yellow relation pop up when I'm close to the axis, so I want to make sure that that is yellow. And then I'm going to double click to exit that. I'm going to make sure I'm sketching a midpoint line. I'm going to sketch the vertical one, make sure I see that yellow relation. I hit escape. And then now I'm going to sketch a midpoint line, but I want to do it in this plane. So these red arrows indicate that I'm in the XY plane. I also see XY on my cursor there, so I'm going to hit the Tab key, and I'm just going to hit it once, and now I'm sketching on this other plane. So I'm going to do the same thing, make sure I see that yellow relation. Okay, hit escape. Now I have these 3 lines, and they're aligned with the axes, and they're symmetric. So I'm going to make them all the same length. I'm going to hold Control, select all 3, and make them equal. And I'm also going to make them for construction. Okay, I'm not going to dimension anything yet because I just want to dimension one of the circles, and that will dictate the dimension of everything else in the sketch. Okay, so now I'm going to sketch circles, and I see that I'm sketching. Let me just make my planes visible. All right. So since the red arrows are lined up on the Y and Z axes, then that means I'm kind of sketching on this right plane. I'm sketching parallel to the right plane. So if I make a circle out here on this point, it's going to start off parallel to the right plane. And I'm going to sketch another one over here. So even though they're far apart, they're parallel to the right plane. There's no constraint or relation holding them parallel. So if I were to move this, it would come out of plane. But as we're sketching these geometries, at least we can get them oriented the way that we want. So I'm going to hit Tab again, and now I'm sketching on the top plane. All right, so I'm going to sketch a circle here, sketch a circle here. I want to make sure I'm connecting these to the endpoints of these axes. And I'm going to hit Tab again. So now I see XY. So XY should indicate that it's parallel to the X and Y axes. I'm sorry, so, and that's parallel to the front plane. Okay, so I made my 6 circles. So if they don't look like this at this point, delete any circles that look like they're parallel to the wrong plane. Just delete them and use the tab to orient your sketching, your temporary sketching plane, and then sketch it again. All right, so from here, I think what I want to do now is dimension one of these diameters. I'm going to make it 14 feet. So if you're not in units of feet, just type in the units. And then your first dimension always scales everything else along with it. So now I can make these all equal by holding the control and selecting them all. And now they're all equal diameter, right? And so if you can imagine now a curve connecting the edges of these circles, it looks like it's not going to be the same equal radius. So I'm going to bring them all in closer. It should look something like this, right? And now I'm ready to start sketching these curves. I'm going to use a 3-point arc. There may be a better way. I wonder if I can. Yeah, it's kind of hard to automatically align things when you're in a 3D sketch. So I'm going to use a 3-point arc. It looks like I'm sketching in the plane that I'm showing here. So my default planes now are so tiny I can't even see them. So if it helps you, I'm going to hit escape right now. And I'm just going to drag these corners until the plane is big enough to see. Actually, I think you can right click. There's a way to fit this to the geometry, but yeah, I'm just going to drag the corners. If you find that shortcut, then you can let me know in the comments. Drag the front plane. You could scroll while you have that held. Alright, and then I'm going to drag this other one. Okay. Okay, so that helps me having these planes. So I'm going to now sketch an arc. And it looks like I'm parallel to the right plane. So I'm just going to sketch connecting the two ends of those circles, and I want my center point. See, I want my center point to be aligned here and here. So I'm going to try to sketch it so that it is close, and then we'll force it using a relation later. Okay. This one, this one. So also make sure that you're creating these coincidence, right? You don't want the tip of your arc to be off of the circle, so it should be a little coincident on each endpoint. Okay, so now it's starting to look good, and then you want those curves to be on the plane, so you can just hold control, left click the plane, and click on plane. Do that for all 4. That prevents them from, see how they get out of plane there? You get a lot more constraints in 3 dimensions, so you have to be extra careful to be always in control. Alright, so hold control, I can click make on plane, and this little pop-up window saves me a little bit of effort. Okay, and then my lights went off, so that's okay. Alright. Okay, so now I have those 4, and then really I also want these corners, I want the end points of the arc to be aligned with the center point of the arc. So I'm going to left click, I'm going to hold control, left click the end point, and then I want them aligned along the y axis, right? The y goes up and down. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I want them aligned along the Z. So it's a little time consuming. Maybe there's an easier way to do this, but you got to do this with each and every one of these arcs. So this one vertically is along the Y, and then horizontally it's going to be along the Z. And what that does is prevents these circular faces from shifting out of plane. Right? You have a 90-degree arc. It kind of contains everything. So I'm just going to keep going with that. And along Z. You can tell it kind of bolds the one, it guesses what you want to do, and it bolds the one that you need, which is kind of nice. Because you can tell this is not perpendicular to the top face at this point. So I'm going to go with the suggestions and not even look. Oops. Okay, click this. Like that along Y. Okay, great. At this point, if you want, you can start moving things around and just see what's not constrained. But I wouldn't recommend it yet until you have the other arcs in place. So I'm going to undo. Right, because there's nothing stopping these faces from racking in the other direction. Okay, so I'm going to make more arcs, and this time I'm going to hit the tab so I'm sketching on the on the top plane. And you can also orient your view if you want. Kind of helps. Alright, so now I'm making arcs from there to there to there. Okay. 4 arcs. I'm gonna put them all on plane. I wonder if I could select multiple. Put them all on plane together. Yep, I can select all 4, put them on plane, and now they're not gonna wiggle out of place. And then I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna make this along X. So I'm just gonna go with the one that I see bolded because it's been guessing correctly for me. Along Z. Along X. And what I'm doing, you can click this checkbox, or what I often do after I've selected the relation, I just click on the empty screen. Okay. Kind of tedious, but important. Okay, so now I have most of these. I have one more set of 4 arcs to do, and then I should be done. So I'm going to orient myself in the front plane. I'm going to click the arc. I'm going to hit tab until I see those 2 arrows. Let's see. I want it in the XY plane. Alright, so I don't really see the arrows because my planes are blocking the way, but I am in the XY plane. So click those. Okay. Done making arcs, and now I have to constrain them all. I'm going to control click all 4, and then this plane, front plane, I'm going to put them on plane, and now I have to align these along axes. So I got to find the center point. Okay. probably could pick all 4 of these. Make them all along the Y. Don't want to over-constrain things. And that's a little bit easier. Along X. Okay. Well, it's frozen. Okay, it worked. Just took a little extra time. And then, let's see. I don't think I constrain this one. I want that along Y. Okay. And then, I probably didn't do this one yet. This one's also along Y. And then this one along X. Okay, so if you want, you could select 4 points and just line them all up at the same time. Okay, so now I have all this, and the only thing I haven't done is to make these radii equal. So let's see, I have too many dimensions displayed, so I'm just going to go ahead and see, can I click that? Sorry. I'm going to click this display mode here. I'm going to unselect relations because there's just too much to look at. Right? And then I think the only thing keeping this unconstrained is I haven't made these equal. Right? So if I were to try to move a vertex, it doesn't really want to move. Oh, maybe it's a long delay. Yep. Okay. So you can move them out because these radii are not constrained. So I'm just going to start out with 1. I'm going to make this equal here. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so you really only need to create a relation for 1 arc on each plane. So I'm just trying to be careful not to make more constraints than I need, because it's very easy to overdefine something. I probably have, I don't know how many relations, but lots and lots. So 1 arc from each plane, just make it equal to one of the circles, and that should do it. Okay, so my computer's moving super slow, but it is moving. Hopefully it's not totally hung up, but that's in essence how you create that 3D sketch. Don't really want to end on this note, but I don't know how long it's going to be hung up for. Oh, overdefined, so now I got to figure out what went wrong. I'm going to back up. Okay. So let's see, what have I done here? I think I was just making one of these arcs equal doesn't like this. So what I'm going to do is, it's taken a long time probably because it's failed. So what I'm going to do, it's a very complicated geometry, and certainly I've made conflicting restraints. So I'm going to keep that equals constraint that I just made, And I'm going to try deleting one of the red ones. And look at that. Worked out just fine. So that's it. That's the 3D sketch geometry. I think it's actually probably good that you see that my sketch constraints failed for a moment, because you have to get good at troubleshooting that. So if you look, there's probably, I don't know how many constraints there are in this, but lots. Right? So look at that mess. You're going to get some conflicts, and you're going to have to get comfortable troubleshooting them. So there's different ways you can do that. You can display all of your relations here. Right? That's how many we have. And then you can filter them. You can look at overdefine, which ones are overdefined, so it'll simplify the screen a little bit. There's different ways to do it, but sometimes I like to just pick one of the red ones, delete it, and see if that helps. So, all right, hope this is helpful. And next video will be creating the patchwork in order to create this into a solid block.